They say life becomes simpler with age, but those who've lived long enough know it's not simplicity that arrives, it's clarity. A kind of vision forged through heartbreak, disappointment, and the quiet strength that comes from surviving what you thought would break you. It's in this clarity that you begin to see people for what they really ask of you, not just in words, but in expectations buried beneath smiles and sweet requests. And suddenly you're not confused anymore. You're just tired. Tired of carrying burdens that never belong to you. Tired of being the dependable one, the fixer, the emotional backbone. Tired of sacrificing your peace in exchange for someone else's convenience. You've come too far to let your life be hijacked by guilt or manipulated by those who only show up when they need something. Imagine standing at the edge of a path you've walked for decades, a path made of compromises, silent tears, and small victories no one ever saw. Now, right at the moment you're ready to walk freely, someone steps in front of you, holding out their hand, not to walk with you, but to weigh you down. A brother needing a bailout, a daughter asking for one more favor, a friend pretending it's just a tiny request. But you feel it, don't you? The invisible rope tying you back to a version of yourself that always says yes, even when it costs you everything. You don't owe your life to anyone. Let that truth sink in. You are not here to be the emergency escape for everyone who refused to prepare. You are not obligated to carry someone else's chaos simply because they call you family. At some point, love without boundaries stops being love. It becomes servitude. And servitude, masked as obligation, is a slow poison to the soul. How many times have you told yourself it's just this once, knowing full well it never is? It starts with a favor, a plea, a carefully crafted sentence that tugs at your compassion. Then before you realize it, you're cleaning up a mess you didn't make, paying for mistakes you didn't commit, and losing sleep over problems that don't belong in your bed. They see your heart and treat it like a resource, not as something to honor, but to mine. And the worst part? When you finally say no, they act like you're the villain. Let's be honest. If someone's love is only warm when you're useful, it's not love, it's dependency. And if that dependency costs you your emotional balance, it's not something you can afford to keep feeding. You're not here to be someone's rescue boat every time their ship sinks, especially not when they keep punching holes in the hull and calling it your responsibility to patch things up. That's not help. That's entrapment disguised as love. You've built your life brick by brick. You've worked, loved, failed, and stood back up again. You've learned the hard way that peace doesn't come from the outside. It grows inside you, quietly and slowly, like a garden that needs protecting. So why let anyone come in and trample it with muddy feet? There's a kind of emotional theft that's harder to spot than any con artist. It's not about stealing money. It's about taking your time, your patience, your energy. It's the call that only comes when there's a problem. The visit that happens only when something is needed. The text message that says, hey, and nothing more, but you already know what's coming next. A request, a demand, a subtle guilt trip. And yet you feel torn because you love them, because you raised them, because you shared a childhood, because walking away feels like betrayal, even when staying feels like self-betrayal. But the truth is simple. When helping others costs you your sanity, it's not help anymore. It's sacrifice. And while sacrifice can be noble, it must never be endless. You cannot set yourself on fire to keep others warm, not when they refuse to light their own flame. There comes a moment, often in silence, when you realize you're not actually living. You're managing. You're maintaining peace at your own expense. You're shrinking to fit spaces that no longer hold your full self. And that's when you must decide, do I keep being the savior in everyone else's story, or do I finally become the hero of my own? Saying no doesn't make you cruel. Drawing a boundary doesn't make you cold. It means you finally recognize that your life matters too, that your rest is sacred, that your time is priceless, and that your emotional bandwidth is not an open faucet for everyone to drink from whenever they please. You are not a lifeline to be used and discarded. You are not a background character in someone else's drama. You are the author, the main character, the one who gets to say no more. And if someone turns their back on you because you said no, they were never facing you with love in the first place. You start to see the patterns, The way they show up only when the bills are due, the kids need babysitting, or their latest crisis has swallowed them whole. Suddenly, your calm life becomes a battlefield, and you're the unwilling soldier drafted into someone else's war. They knock on your door with stories dripping in urgency, painting their disasters as yours to solve. But where were they when you needed someone? Where was their support when you were the one struggling in silence? It hurts, doesn't it? To realize that the hands reaching out to you aren't always seeking connection, they're reaching for pieces of you to take. And when they've taken enough, they vanish, only to return when they need more. But you're left with less and less of yourself each time. Less energy, less trust, less will to keep pretending you're okay with being the emotional crutch for everyone else's wounded pride. And that's the thing. No one ever says it out loud, but they expect you to never get tired, to never say no, to keep giving your time, your money, your home, your body, your silence, without ever daring to ask for anything in return. That's not love. That's exploitation dressed in the costume of kinship. You've given enough. You've listened when no one listened to you. You've paid for things you didn't owe. You've stood between loved ones and their consequences too many times. But now you get to choose differently. You get to say, I will not carry what doesn't belong to me. You get to let go of guilt and replace it with grounded self-respect. And nothing challenges that more than when money enters the conversation. You're finally sipping your coffee in peace, watching the light move across the wall, and just then, the phone rings. It's not a casual check-in. It's not, how are you? It's another request, a loan, a favor, a quick help, just this once again. And your heart, it clenches because you already know how this plays out. You give, they disappear. You ask about repayment, and suddenly you're difficult, insensitive, or ungrateful. But here's the truth. The people who truly care for you wouldn't put you in that position. They wouldn't make your generosity a weapon to use against you. It's not about being stingy. It's about knowing the value of what you've built. You've worked decades to secure some peace, some security, some rest. That's not something you toss away for temporary gratitude that disappears faster than it arrives. And if they call you selfish, let them. Because preserving your well-being in a world that constantly asks you to sacrifice it, that's not selfish. That's wisdom. There will always be someone who thinks they're entitled to your savings, your property, your quiet. People who confuse love with access. But access to you is a privilege, not a right. And when someone only shows up with open hands but closed hearts, you owe them nothing. Not your money, not your time, not your space. Especially not when their need is just another excuse to avoid taking responsibility for their own life. There are wounds that come from kindness that wasn't returned, that was mistaken for weakness. And if you're not careful, your giving spirit will become your greatest wound. That's why you must learn to say no, not with anger, not with cruelty, but with unshakable peace. A peace that says, I've earned this life and I won't trade it away for your comfort. You're not just protecting your bank account, you're protecting your heart. Because money isn't just money, it's safety, it's dignity, it's the difference between breathing easy and staying awake at night, wondering why you let yourself be pulled back into someone else's chaos again. And yes, it's painful. Painful to witness people you love reduce your relationship to a transaction, to realize they value what you can give more than who you are. But that pain has a message. It's time to redefine love, because love doesn't demand sacrifice without gratitude. Love doesn't drain, it fills. That's why now, more than ever, you need to protect your energy like it's gold, because it is. Your peace is worth more than their temporary approval. Your well-being is worth more than their comfort. And your future, however long it stretches, is sacred. You don't owe them your retirement. You don't owe them your savings. You don't owe them your weekends, your mornings, your sleep. You don't owe anyone the parts of yourself you fought so hard to reclaim. And when they ask again, and they will, you'll have a choice. The same one you've always had, but this time you'll be ready to choose differently. To put yourself first, to stand tall in your no, to say with clarity and calm, I can't give what I don't have. And even if I could, I choose not to. Because peace is not negotiable. Not anymore. And just when you think you've weathered enough, another storm creeps in. This time, wearing the face of family conflict. The kind you didn't start, didn't nurture, but somehow are expected to solve. You become the emotional glue, the unofficial referee, the bridge across generations of resentment. It begins with innocent words. Can you talk to your brother? Or, you're the only one who can fix this. But quickly turns into emotional warfare. You're not a mediator, yet you find yourself in the middle of a battlefield that isn't even yours. What they don't see is the toll it takes. Every argument you try to settle tears at your peace. Every phone call meant to smooth things over becomes a burden that lingers long after you hang up. You thought you were helping. You thought stepping in might restore the love. But instead, you get caught in the crossfire, pulled in directions that leave you tired, disillusioned, and heartbreakingly alone. And then there's the worst kind of pain, the one that arises not from strangers, but from your own children. Watching them argue over what you've built, what you hold sacred. That home you poured your life into, that space you thought would always be safe, now treated like a prize and in a bitter contest. You see them fight, not over memories, but over money, bricks, and future inheritance. And that's when you understand, even the most beautiful things can become battlegrounds in the hands of the ungrateful. You find yourself wishing you could go back in time, back to when love was louder than greed. But those days are gone. And no matter how many times you intervene, no matter how noble your intentions, the fracture only deepens. You cannot mend what they refuse to heal. You cannot carry the emotional weight of a family that has forgotten how to be one. And here's the truth. Trying to fix everything might be the very thing that breaks you. There's a deep grief that comes with realizing your role has shifted, that your presence is no longer honored, but used. That instead of being cherished for your wisdom, you're expected to clean up messes left by immaturity. You're no longer the calm center of the storm. You're just one more piece expected to hold the chaos together. But this is where everything can change. Right now. You are allowed to step away, to put the phone down, to say, I love you, but this is not my battle. Because choosing peace doesn't mean you love them less. It means you love yourself enough not to be broken by their dysfunction. And yes, some will call you selfish. Let them. They called you selfless when you were bleeding for their comfort. They praised your sacrifices when it benefited them. But now that you ask for silence, for space, for respect, they don't know what to do with it. That's okay. You're not here to be understood by everyone. You're here to protect the only thing no one else can protect for you, your peace of mind. Don't step into fires just because you have water. Some fires are meant to burn until those who started them learn how to put them out themselves. Don't allow guilt to trick you into a role that erodes your joy. You are not responsible for everyone's healing, especially not at the cost of your own. And then there are those quiet betrayals that don't come in the form of shouting matches or requests for money. They come in subtler forms, requests for you to change who you are. Suggestions dressed as advice, comments that chip away at your sense of self. They tell you, don't wear that. Stop talking like that. That music is outdated. Try to act your age. They smile while saying it, not knowing their words carry the weight of erasure, not understanding that in trying to modernize you, they are trying to erase you. But you see it now. The danger isn't in being outdated. The danger is in forgetting who you are to become what someone else deems acceptable. You're not too old. You're timeless. The things you love, the way you speak, the stories you carry, they are not relics. They are treasures, living memories that shaped you, softened you, and made you whole. You don't have to explain why you dress the way you do. You don't need approval for the music that soothes you or the habits that bring you comfort. You've earned every quirk, every ritual, every preference. These aren't things to be outgrown. They are things to be celebrated. The tragedy isn't in aging. It's in allowing others to convince you that age equals irrelevance. But you know better. Because what they call old-fashioned, you call rooted. What they mock as rigid, you see as grounded. And what they ask you to change, you understand to be sacred. And if you ever doubt that, if their voices get too loud, remember this. You've already proven your worth. Not through words, but through years of living, loving, and rising. You don't need to keep proving yourself just because someone younger doesn't understand your value. Let them learn, as you did, through time. You are not a phase to be updated. You are not a system that needs rebooting. You are a soul in bloom, no matter the season. And as painful as it is, some people will never see that. Some will continue to ask you to mold yourself into something more palatable, something less loud, less firm, less alive. But you were not born to be palatable. You were born to be whole. There's a quiet kind of courage in refusing to shrink, in standing tall when the world around you insists you soften your edges, silence your voice, make yourself smaller to fit their comfort zones. But you're not here to shrink. Not after everything you've survived. You've grown into this version of yourself through storms, solitude, and strength most people will never understand. To erase that now, to pretend your spirit must be tucked away neatly for the sake of others, ease would be the real loss. And yet the pressure comes, often from those closest to you, the ones who think they know what's best, who confuse control with care. They say things like, just adapt, don't be so stubborn, this is the new way, as if evolution requires the sacrifice of everything that once made you feel alive. But you don't need to erase your roots to grow. You don't need to abandon your essence to feel relevant. There is nothing outdated about authenticity. What they often fail to see is that every ritual you keep, every item you hold dear, every old song that still makes you tear up, these aren't just habits, they're anchors. They keep you connected to everything you've lived through, everything that shaped you into someone who knows how to endure, how to love deeply, how to protect peace like it's gold. That's why when someone asks you to change, not for your betterment, but for their comfort, you must pause. You must look at the cost, because the cost of constantly adjusting yourself for others is the slow erosion of self. And the day you no longer recognize yourself in the mirror, when your reflection becomes a stranger, you'll wish you had protected your truth with more fire. So don't apologize for the parts of you that refuse to fade. Don't silence your laugh because it's too loud. Don't change your clothes because they think you should look your age. Don't let go of what you love just because someone else doesn't understand its value. Their lack of understanding is not your burden to carry. You were not made to live a life of quiet compromise. You were made to live fully, boldly, colorfully, unapologetically. And the ones who truly love you, they'll never ask you to dim your light so they can feel more comfortable in the dark. But sometimes it's not just about how they want you to change. It's about how they want you to prioritize them over you. That's where the line gets even sharper. Because they come with open arms and heavy expectations, asking you to sacrifice your well-being so they can feel better. To cancel your plans, quiet your opinions, adjust your emotions, also theirs can take center stage. It's subtle at first. Can you do this for me? It would mean so much if you just, don't you want me to be happy? They don't say it outright, but the message is clear. Your happiness is secondary. Your needs are negotiable. Your peace is expendable. And that's when you start to fade. Slowly, quietly. One compromise at a time, one silenced feeling, one abandoned desire. Until suddenly you're not living your life. You're curating someone else's comfort. You become the emotional cushion, the backup plan, the safe space for everyone else but yourself. It's the worst kind of self-betrayal. The kind that happens while you're trying to be kind, but no more, because kindness without boundaries is self-destruction, and love that demands you erase yourself is not love. It's manipulation with soft edges. You are allowed to take up space. You are allowed to say, my feelings matter too. You are allowed to place your needs on the table without apology. You are allowed to protect your peace, even if it disappoints others. Especially if it disappoints those who are used to you sacrificing for them without question. Somewhere along the way, they forgot that your life isn't an extension of theirs, that you're not here to orbit their world, that your existence is not a tool to ease their discomfort. And that realization may shock them, but it will free you. Freedom doesn't always come in grand gestures. Sometimes it looks like saying no and not explaining yourself. Like turning off your phone and choosing rest, like walking away from a conversation that makes you feel small, like reclaiming your time, your energy, your joy, and refusing to negotiate any of it. This is your one life, not a rehearsal, not a waiting room for someone else's validation. Every moment you spend bending for others who wouldn't bend for you is a moment you never get back. You are not here to be tolerated. You are here to be honored. So the next time someone asks you to carry more than you should, to bend in ways that hurt, to become smaller so they can feel bigger, remember this: you have nothing to prove. You've already earned the right to live freely, to be fully yourself, to protect your joy with both hands. You don't have to justify why you want peace. You don't have to explain why you're done playing the role of the helper, the fixer, the forgiver. You just have to live it. Live your truth so boldly that those who benefit from your silence can't help but notice your absence when you finally walk away. And perhaps the most powerful shift comes when you realize this: you don't need permission to live for yourself. You've spent years answering every call, meeting every need, calming every storm that wasn't even yours to navigate. But the years have changed you. Experience has carved wisdom into your soul. And now, instead of rushing to rescue, you pause. You breathe. You ask the question no one ever encouraged you to ask: but what about me? Because you matter. Not as a role, not as a resource, not as the reliable one, but as a human being with a pulse, with feelings, with limits. It may surprise some to learn that you have dreams of your own, that you still carry hopes tucked in your heart, waiting for the right time to be seen, that you too long for simplicity, for mornings that belong to you, for quiet afternoons without obligations, for evenings filled with things that feed your soul, not drain it. You're not cold for wanting that. You're not heartless for protecting it. You are simply awake now, awake to what was taken under the guise of duty, awake to what you gave away without realizing the cost, awake to the fact that life doesn't give you back what you give to others unless you ask for it. And you should ask for it: your space, your dignity, your peace. Ask, claim, and protect it fiercely, because those who truly love you won't ask you to suffer so they can feel better. They won't come to you with burdens disguised as love, expecting you to give what you no longer have. True love respects boundaries. It uplifts. It understands when you say, "I've given enough and now it's time for me." And if they don't understand, if your no causes distance, maybe the closeness was never love to begin with, but convenience. You're allowed to outgrow relationships that were rooted in imbalance. You're allowed to say goodbye to connections that only took from you. You're allowed to release the guilt that kept you stuck. And maybe the deepest truth of all is this: you cannot save someone who doesn't want to be saved. You can't carry a person through life when they're determined to sit down, and you should never, never drown yourself in the name of loyalty. Loyalty has limits. Love must include you too, because you have paid your dues. You have done the late nights, the early mornings, the sacrifices no one even noticed. And now is your season, not for performance, not for rescue, but for presence, for joy, for rest, for finally allowing yourself to live without the weight of other people's expectations suffocating your spirit. And if someone tries to make you feel guilty for choosing that, for choosing you, let that be your confirmation that their love was conditional, that their care was transactional, that your presence was never truly cherished, only used. So walk away if you must, not with anger, not with drama, but with grace. Quietly, clearly, completely. Walk toward a life that honors your spirit, that respects your boundaries, that cherishes your time. Let go of the roles that were assigned to you without your consent. Let go of the guilt that was never yours to hold. Let go of the belief that being needed is the same as being loved. It's not. You are more than what you can give. You are more than the support you offer. You are more than the comfort others find in your presence. You are a person worthy of rest, of softness, of peace. This is your moment now, to live on your own terms, to say yes only when it feels good in your soul and no when it doesn't, to spend your time how you choose with people who see you, not just what you do for them, to wake up without dread, to walk through your day without obligations piling on your back like bricks, to breathe fully, not as a reaction, but as a way of being. And the ones who truly love you, they'll still be there. They'll adjust. They'll learn. And if they don't, you've still won because you chose you, because you stopped being the background character in everyone else's chaos and finally stepped into the lead role of your own peace. It's a quiet revolution, this kind of self-honoring. It doesn't always make headlines, but it changes everything. It changes how you sleep, how you speak, how you move, how you love. It changes the very rhythm of your existence, from reactive to intentional, from survival to serenity. And isn't that what you've always deserved? So from this day forward, let the answer be clear. When someone asks for too much, when the weight is too heavy, when the price is your well-being, let the answer be no. Not out of cruelty, but out of clarity. Because anything that robs you of your peace simply costs too much. You've come too far to sell your soul for a little approval, too wise to fall for emotional debts dressed up as love, too awake to keep pretending that self-sacrifice is the same as connection. It's not. This is your time, not to prove anything, not to fix anyone, but to be whole, free, grounded, intact. You see, the real transformation doesn't come when others finally understand you. It comes when you stop needing them to. When your inner compass grows louder than their voices. When you no longer compromise your spirit to be accepted by people who only recognize your worth when it benefits them. That's the moment you reclaim your freedom, not as a loud declaration, but as a quiet certainty. You begin to choose differently, not out of bitterness, but out of wisdom. You start protecting your mornings like sacred ground. You leave messages unanswered when they arrive laced in guilt. You smile, not because everything is perfect, but because you are no longer a hostage to other people's expectations. And in that smile is the strength of someone who survived emotional storms and learned how to dance in their own stillness. Because you've learned the difference now between giving and bleeding, between supporting and being used, between loving and losing yourself. You've unlearned the lie that says your value is in what you do for others. And you've relearned the truth. Your value was always there, in who you are, in how you feel, in the peace you now protect like breath itself. And yes, there will be moments of doubt, times when someone's silence feels like punishment, times when old patterns come knocking, asking you to step back into the role you've finally left behind. But you will stand firm. You will remember what it cost to get here. You will remember the years you spent pouring into people who never thought to pour back. And you'll remind yourself, never again. This isn't about revenge. It's not about shutting everyone out or building walls around your heart. It's about filtering with wisdom, about choosing who gets your energy, your time, your softness, and most importantly, who doesn't. You don't owe access to everyone, especially not those who mistook your kindness for currency. The older you get, the more you realize peace is not a destination. It's a daily choice, a habit, a commitment to stay centered no matter who tries to pull you off balance. And protecting it becomes your greatest act of self-respect. You may find that your circle gets smaller, that some people fade out of your life once you stop being useful to them. Let them. The people meant to stay will celebrate your boundaries. They will honor your growth. They will adapt to your healing, not punish you for it. And what you'll be left with is something most people never find: real peace. Not the kind that comes from things being easy, but the kind that comes from things being true, from no longer lying to yourself just to keep someone else comfortable, from walking away from what drains you, even if it wears a familiar face. And if ever you're tempted to go back, to give in, to say yes when your heart says no, remember what's at stake: your emotional balance, your precious energy, your future. Every time you choose yourself, you are not being selfish. You are being wise. You are being whole. So protect that peace like it's everything, because it is. Let no be a complete sentence. Let silence be your answer when explanations would only invite more manipulation. Let your joy be non-negotiable. Let your life be yours finally and fully. This isn't just a decision, it's a declaration that you will no longer carry what was never yours, that your worth is not measured by what you endure, that your heart is no longer available for emotional bartering. You are no longer the lifeboat. You are no longer the fixer. You are no longer the emotional landfill for people who refuse to grow. You are your own sanctuary now. And as the days pass, you'll notice a change. Not in them, but in you. You'll sleep easier, smile more, breathe deeper. And perhaps for the first time in a long time, you'll feel light. Not because everything is perfect, but because you're no longer carrying what was never meant to be yours. And when they ask, because they always will, when they ask for your time, your energy, your savings, your silence, your soul, ask yourself, Simply and honestly, does this cost my peace? If the answer is yes, then the answer to them is no. You owe no one an explanation. You owe yourself a life that feels like freedom. And now, finally, you are free. If this message spoke to you, don't keep it to yourself. Leave a comment below and share your experience. I'd love to know what part resonated most with you. Don't forget to like this video if it brought you value. It helps more people find this message. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you won't miss the next one. Thank you for being here. Your time, your presence, and your voice mean more than you know. Until next time, take care of yourself, protect your peace, and remember, you deserve to live free.